Sark could be on the hot seat going into the 2023 season for the Texas Longhorns, and we got to talk about it. But before we do that, let's take care of some house cleaning. Go ahead, hit that like and the subscribe button. Let me know what you all are thinking down in the comments below. Do you guys think Sark could potentially be on the hot seat in 2023 if they don't win 10 games? So, as you can tell behind me, I'm an Oklahoma fan, but listen, we are no short of talking about all teams in college football, and today we're going to talk about Texas and Steve Sarkisian and the expectations that come with being the Texas football head coach. And listen, Sark is heading into his third year, and if you look at what Sark has got, he's returning 10 of his 11 offensive starters, only missing Bijan Robinson, and then I guess you could say the next biggest loss is losing Roschon Johnson as well to the draft. And if you're Sark and you've looked at what he's been able to do on the recruiting trail and what he's been able to do in his first two seasons, he's going to have high expectations in his third season. So in 2021, Sark went 5-7 after they had a pretty good start to the season, went on a 6-game skid, and ultimately Texas just couldn't come back out of it. You lose to Kansas, you're the jokes, but Texas comes back the next season, and they play close with Alabama. You start to see the program going in the right direction because in the 2022 recruiting class, Sark really showed everybody that he is here to turn around the Texas program. And here's what I mean by this. If you go look at what Sark was able to do, Sark went out there and attacked the two positions that Texas really needed a lot of help at, the offensive line and the edge. And more so the edge in 2023 than 2022. But in 2022, we saw just this historic offensive line class for Texas, along with a lot of that NIL deal. Whether you like it or not, Texas was able to get a lot of production out of that offensive line. And coming into the second year with a lot of them young guys, yeah, Texas's offensive line is going to be really good. But then you look at the defensive ends. And in 2022, they get Colton Vasek. They got Tahu Siliakana. Both were either considered to go to Oklahoma or was a flip to Oklahoma. And even though we didn't really expect either two of those guys to play in their first season because ultimately they need to put on weight, you look at what the future is at that position for the defensive ends for Texas, and you go, wow, looks good. Texas has got a bright future. And then they got the 5-star linebacker in Anthony Hill. So when you look at all of the defensive areas that Texas has really struggled in, they're not just recruiting the skill players. They're going and getting guys that can help fight in the trenches, and I think that's what matters. And ultimately, over the next couple of years, you're going to see Texas continue to put guys into the league, which in 2021, they didn't put a single guy into the league. And here's the deal. Here's where I come up with the 10-win number. So he goes 8-5 in his second year with a pretty big win over against Oklahoma. You win 49-0. Now, you can be like me and have your speculations of whether Texas would have won 49-0 if Oklahoma would have had Dylan Gabriel in that game. But ultimately, that's the score, right? So that's what we're left with. And in year 3, we talked about the offensive starters returning. You have the number 3 overall class in the country. And you have the number 1 quarterback in the country on this team, the number 1 running back on this team. There's going to be a lot of expectations. And listen, we've heard all the Arch Manning hype. I think Arch Manning is a decent quarterback. I don't think he's going to be I think when we look back at this class, I don't think he's going to be a top 5 college quarterback. And that's just because I think he's more of a pro-style quarterback. Now, I think Texas does more of a pro-style offense. But, yeah, that's a conversation for another day. So, ultimately, that's kind of what I'm thinking. I'm kind of thinking, 10 wins, that's where you need to be. You need to be in the Big 12 championship. Now, you didn't hear me say you need to win it. You heard me say you need to be in it. They need to be contending for it, especially when you go look at their schedule. It's not like you're looking at it and saying, 3 or 4 losses. You're looking at it and going, okay, maybe 2. At Alabama, I think that's a loss. But I think that game could tell you a lot about the direction of this Texas program, because I don't think you're going to get the same Alabama team that you played last year where they were just undisciplined and, where everything went wrong, right? If Texas plays that game close, I think you're going to look at it and say, okay, Texas is closer than maybe we thought. The only other game that I think you really lose is either at TCU or at Baylor. But I have my reservations about TCU because we don't know what TCU is going to be like. They lost Quentin Johnston. They lost their running back. They lost Max Duggan. Now, I know they've got Trey Sanders coming in out of the transfer portal. They got JoJo Earl coming out of the transfer portal. They got Brockermeyer coming in out of the transfer portal. So, and they've got Chandler Morris returning. So I know TCU's got stuff coming back. I just don't know if they're going to be able to put together this season to go out there and run the conference like they did last season. They had a lot of early breaks running for them, and including a game at DKR that, well, let's be honest, if Texas would have showed up in that game, Texas probably would have won. Neither team played super great. So I look at the schedule for Texas: Rice, Wyoming, Kansas, Houston, BYU, Kansas State, Iowa State, Texas Tech. That's 8 wins. There are a couple teams we didn't mention: Alabama, Oklahoma, Baylor, and TCU. Oklahoma, Alabama, Baylor, TCU. Yep, 4 games that we didn't mention. All Texas has to do is win 2 of those to get the 10 wins. All they have to do. All they have to do is win 2. And I think that's the goal. If you're a Texas fan, you look at the schedule, get to the Big 12 championship game. It might be a rematch with Oklahoma because if you've heard my breakdown of the Oklahoma schedule, I think it's a cupcake schedule, and I think Oklahoma has to win 9 or 10 games. I don't think there is it's kind of like the same thing with Texas here. They got to win, and they got to get there because the schedule is so easy and so favorable. It's paved for the 2 players going to the SEC to see each other in that Big 12 championship game. So, Texas fans, go ahead and jump down in the comments below. I'm curious to hear from you guys. What are your thoughts about this Texas team? Do you think Sark needs to win 10 games, and could he potentially be on the hot seat going into 2023?